Welcome back. Good morning. All right. We had that wacky two-bar reversal last week. Oh, I guess it should have been somewhat suspect. At least this had some showing strength, but we had that retest and certainly looked like it was going to go lower. It was at resistance and it didn't happen. So now, with such a reversal, doesn't it have to go up? I don't know. We shall see. So the top of the area is up here. It's pretty close. Weekly time frame. My drawings there, still in an uptrend, and I'm not totally forgetting the idea that this could be a topping pattern. So one of the things to consider here going into this week, I talked about in the weekend video, right? This is pretty ideal setup for this pattern to fail. The reason being is when I see this bar, that bar right there, where it moves above there and it's got this little tail right at that resistance where things got rejected. Well, this just becomes a very important place not to be violated, because these two closes are about the same. And then this, makes a slightly higher high into all these topping tail bars. And so last week's low in a lot of places is a critical place not to violate. So, that's a little bit of a distance away. You can see where the cursor is. Basically, this area right here. So if you're looking at the daily chart, you say, all right, this is that shallow retracement that we talked about. And I said, you know what? I don't like this because it didn't pull back far enough. This isn't in an uptrend. It's sideways at resistance. They're getting so bullish because they're stepping up to buy on such a shallow pullback. I mean, this thing didn't even pull back to the 50. And then we get this red bar and it flips right back up again. So last week was a lot of whips. And Friday was a go nowhere kind of day, right? So we come into this week where earnings reports, Thursday is the biggest day for economic data. So we'll see where this ends up, right? So can it break out above these highs? No, so I think some kind of news has to happen or down below. And so where we are here today, unchanged, nothing. It's like, okay, we're right back where we ended last week, as if nothing ever happened. There was some attempts to go up that didn't get higher. So that got sold into. There is a void, a little bit of a void below here with the overnight data. You can see that's yesterday and Friday, and then the sideways price action. But we have to see if it actually follows through lower. And internals don't tell us too much. This is still dead neutral. Breath is sideways up there, so not a big deal. You know what, Jake? The numbers that you have there, what did I write down? 40.95 and 41.70, but I don't think it's worth doing. I don't think it's worth doing. So average range expanded a little bit last week, 42 points. And so where there was premium, here's the close. These like close. And so we go to the average range, get out of the average range. Does put it at like 41.90. 41.90 has no premium. I'm just looking again right now. You got to go to 41.70. 41.70 from here. That's too close. Now you got 41.80. Well, to get 41.80, it has to go up at the open. So it has to start going up. And then it's still within the range that it could hit. And I'm not confident in. I mean, this is bullish. This 2-bar reversal went nowhere. So we need some kind of bullish day, at least an initial move up where the premiums expand, where we're relatively close, where we could fade something near 4,200. That would make sense. And then down below, 40.95. That's, from here to here, that's within striking distance. So you really have to believe that this market isn't going to go anywhere today or just be range bound, because, these aren't no brainers to move that far from this kind of a pattern. Like, could go in either direction. And the 41.90, I'm just looking at, it is on support near the end at the bottom of that red bar. The expected move is 25 points today. Is that what you're telling me? I don't know, based on what? I don't know how they come up with that number. Vega, planetary alignment, Thea around the delta. I don't know. I just look at average ranges and, I mean, I could kind of agree that 25 points up and down from here to here, that you maybe could have a nowhere day based on option chains. Yeah, so something that Dan looks at, around earnings time, to where, somehow Black-Scholes model where they arrange. It'll be interesting to see, tomorrow, what the range actually is. So my 42 points is just based on what the average true range is, day to day over the last 5 days. And, you can see it's kind of reasonable, starting here, if it could go there or go there. And so in my thing is just like, I'd like to be on the other side of that and then look where that lines up as far as support and resistance goes. Oh, 25 points, that would be a pretty sizable contraction from what has been. But it'd be interesting to see. I'm not so keen on SPX spread today. I have to see things make an attempt to move in one direction or the other first. All right, futures going nowhere. So maybe in alignment with what you're saying, Jake. But I mean, here to start the day, it went up a little bit, inside day. It's like, all right, consolidating at the top of the green bar. That's bullish. The 2-bar reversal was bullish. This was the topping tail bar. It didn't follow through, and it ripped right back up with a big bar, range expansion bar. It's the kind of pattern that is suggestive that it's going to push up. So we're waiting to see, can it actually do that? Same bullish reversal bar, topping tail bar, flip back up, going sideways here at the top of the range. Sideways up there on the weekly chart. If you can clear that, coming, a little further back up. So we definitely know if it breaks Wednesday's low, that's going to be bearish. No doubt about it. But right now it's acting like it can stay up there, and you can see what's going on here. This Friday where it whipped up and then whipped back down and came back up again. Pretty crazy, erratic price action. The Russell going sideways, weaker, of course, but going sideways at resistance. These aren't desirable patterns to get involved in. YM, so within striking distance of this prior high up there, same bullish bar going sideways at the top of the range. Different earnings reports coming out. What's going to report earnings in the Dow? I think think Goldman, right? Let's see. Goldman Sachs on the 18th, right? So tomorrow, Johnson and Johnson, IBM, some tech on the 19th, Travelers, American Express, Procter and Gamble on Friday. So a little bit of a mix there, but nothing today as far as the Dow. And then today, I don't know if they're out now or after the close. JB Hunt, Charles Schwab, another bank, State Street, M&T. So those are today. Too much. I don't think there's much in economic reports. And then, tomorrow starts picking up some steam again. Bank of New York and Bank of America, Netflix, UAL. All right. So maybe today will be that, maybe your 25-point range. It'd be interesting to see. But, all right. Some points of interest. The dollar's coming down to some support here. We're going to see if that makes a turn. It's up a little bit here. If it does, gold will, that gap down as the dollar moved up. So you want to keep an eye on the dollar this week, and also interest rates, the 10-year. Look at what that looked like. It was going to roll over into the void, and now it flipped up. One of the themes over the weekend letter was about the 10-year breakdown failure and the dollar turning around, and the two of them moving in that direction together over the last year and a year or so moved the market lower. So they're not completely like breaking out. Oh, this is starting to move up, but something you're going to want to keep an eye on, because that's been the intermarket relationship. If interest rates and the dollar are moving up, the markets have moved down. And that, I think, is a key point to keep an eye on. And and gold and especially silver is extended. That certainly is a pattern that looks like it can start to retrace. It's just sitting there doing nothing, but it's definitely the kind of pattern that the prices start to pull back from. Crude oil holding up. And if that breaks out above the highs there, inflation. And remember what we talked about here when that inflation report came out, where it dropped from 6% to 5%. It was based on crude oil being down here when, from the data that they were reporting on. And meanwhile, crude oil was up here. So essentially, there was no change. If anything, there was a little pickup in inflation. And if this goes higher, they're going to see a huge reversal when inflation gets reported again next month. Bitcoin down a little bit, and this has had a pretty good correlation where Bitcoin has been going up. It's been supportive of the market going up, and this is pretty bullish chart on a bottoming pattern on the weekly chart, but it is at some resistance. So if Bitcoin's going down, interest rates are going up, the dollar's going up, I think the market's going to have a hard time. But then you got, of course, what are the earnings? What are the earnings coming out? And then the economic data. So look, I think the beginning of the week could be more of what we've been experiencing, erratic price action. So I wouldn't get too excited one way or the other. Not at the beginning of the week. Let's see how this unfolds. You can see the 2-year. And again, this is in alignment with what I'm saying about interest rates. And, the markets have been trying to grind their way up. And meanwhile, the 2-year, the price of bonds, they go up, interest rates go down, market likes that. And you've got this topping pattern. And I got my alert here, like this is going to start to break down. And you look at the 10-year, it's similar. And this starts breaking down. So no matter what you look at, you can look at, this year or TBT. You want to keep an eye on interest rates this week. And sure as hell, the Fed is going to raise interest rates. And look at this. It's knocking on the door, 5%. Oh, is that going to be the end? I don't know. But this has the potential to be I think, a pinnacle week for at least some price action that gets out of this range one way or the other. Just keep that in mind with, your trades that you're putting on. And of course, stops save your life. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. Not a lot of earnings yet, but we've got a big watch list here. As always on Mondays. Let's see, earnings started here with Schwab. Was up a little bit, now down 49. And then ST getting whacked, STT. So I think both of those are in the KRE. I'm assuming Schwab is not for sure, but we'll keep an eye on KRE. And if anybody knows, I'm just because of this banking crisis. Remember, we had that insurance company, I think Progressive last week. I'm just very Progressive. Look at this thing. I'm very interested when they're reporting earnings. Is what they're talking about for these bond losses, which started all this regional thing. They plow all their money into these longer dated bonds, thinking that was a smart move, and the bonds collapsed 35% of value. So when you mark to market, you got a big old loss on your hands. So it doesn't seem too complicated to me. So if any of you know, I'm just kind of curious if that's what's causing some of STT's big gap down. That's at earnings, but no volume. MTB, actually, another bottoming pattern. Regional bank did gap up. We have a buy setup pre-market. That's actually interesting as a possible bottoming pattern. 30-minute high. So I'm going to put that in a window. I like it. MTB. MA. Yeah, nice closing breakout on Thursday. Don't like Visa as much about a pullback because how we use moving averages. It is strong, it is bullish daily, weekly, monthly, but market's neutral, and this thing blasted from 225 or from the 20. So just not my setup. BABA, we actually have as a call spread in the weekend letter. It's gapping up for some reason here, which is fine. Baidu, the cousin, this I like. Climactic buy setup on major support and gapping up. Put that in the window. There's, Google, Microsoft is in the news here. Google gapping down to 104. That's a bearish gap. That's a call spread idea. What the news is they're Samsung is talking about putting Microsoft's Bing in its phones as the default instead of Google. So that's a bullish gap, 30-minute high. If the market's in a good mood for whatever reason, this is both a directional and a put spread watch. That's a bullish consolidation. Red bar is ignored right into the 20. XPIV had some delivery information. So yeah, that's a put spread idea on a pullback. I mentioned LI. Yeah, looks great. This one I like better. I just think it has more room on the daily, weekly and versus head and shoulders. So yeah, I like LI a lot. Directional and put spread. Pen got a downgrade. Now that's what we call a 1, 2, 3, 4, where you have the second bar trading over that bar's high. That would have been a nice short on Friday afternoon. That's a nice 1, 2, 3. Pac W got a bond downgrade. This is another one that's just in a coma here. You can't get off the mat. Here's the regional banks, KRE. Looks horrible. You know, people say that the markets are forward looking, they reflect all available information, they're all knowing, you know, so on and so forth. And if that's the case, this regional bank chart is saying, despite Yellen and the Fed saying they'll come to the rescue, this is saying there's problems under the hood. Hive, I announced, I actually like this on a pullback daily weekly. But it had some, it's a Bitcoin mining stock, and when Bitcoin down, a number of these miners are down. Mara, we had a naked call spread 0DTE on Friday. And look at this 15-minute chart. That, if it just goes sideways for 30 minutes, that's a beautiful day trade short. Look at this void over here, topping pattern. So that looks great. We're actually in BTBT in our advisory letter. It's gapping down also, but we're in trail mode. Our stop is under Thursday's low for the back third. So just let it play out. Merck bought a biotech, I think, which is gapping up huge. It's opening flat, really. Nothing to do with that, though. Taiwan TSM said they're reducing their CapEx expenditures. And, you know, so you have to think about that. Is that good or bad to the company? And my initial thought was it was bad because it means that either they don't have the money or they're deciding not to allocate it for new research expenditures, etc. So I actually was surprised that it's gapping up. So 30-minute high could be a put spread. And then, as always, I go look at the cousins, and that's a foreign company, obviously, but here's some of ours in the same business, and they're gapping down. Look at AMAT, Clack, that's an ugly gap. That's ugly. So these are all, every one, look, this is gapping under last week's low. Every one of these are call spread candidates. If there's, going through the checklist, of course, is there juice, tight spreads, etc. Yeah, Patrick, we were talking about the regional bank mess. It's on my list. I don't know, I've got this thing blasting this morning. BLBX. Well, you know what? The way it trades, my guess is it's another one of these AI stocks. We were talking about that last week, that seems to be the new buzzword, even if you're a friggin' grocery store. Oh, I'm using AI to maximize inventory and to deliver better preferences to consumer shopping. You know, just have your marketing person come up with some BS like that. And you know, you're getting big old pops. So let's check that one later, because so I can add it to my list. All right, so yeah, Mara, we talked about coin. Coin with a gapping down here a little bit. This is McGraw in the house finally. He was out visiting family. A 30-minute low. This could be a condor. Selling an out of the money call spread, out of the money put spread for Friday. Here's another one that just blasted. I'll look it up later. I'm just curious when I see blasts like that. Are they AI related? Unum. Broke out, got smacked down. Oh, I know why I'm looking at that, because they had positive mention in Barron's. And I just didn't see any patterns of any of these ones that were positively mentioned. EQH, I kind of like the best. I set an alarm at 2560 as a new trade breakout. Got a bear sandwich on the weekly. This bottoming pattern I like also over Friday's high. And let me set an alarm at 1640. I had an alarm and it went off pre-market at 1640. So I'm just resetting it as own. FERD. Why am I looking at FERD? I have no idea. It might have come from, yeah, Barron's article. Jable circuit. If it can take out, or maybe Sam's list, if it can take out Friday's high put spread. Cuervo Gold under Friday's low, call spread. Leah, that big old topping tail, so that's a call spread. The 140s call spread under Friday's low. KTB is a sell setup. I got an alarm at 4720. DHI is a put spread candidate, and it has earnings, but we're going to do it anyway. If it takes out Friday's high, we're going to sell the 93 puts. But it has earnings this week, so it has to be your style or don't do it. BXP is a bear 123 with that continuation bar that we like. And this is a REIT. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk about the REITs being the next shoe to drop with the regional banks just because of similar exposure. Wow, I got a ton of alarms going off here. Another computer. All right, this CRBG. I set a new alarm. 1645. We just simply don't trade in the first 5 minutes here unless you're an aggressive gap trader. But particularly on Mondays, I just kind of have this rule on Mondays. You're better off waiting 10 minutes instead of 5. UNG. Yeah, there you got a nice retest finally. Look at pre-market though, it rallied a lot. So we'll watch that on a pullback. Yeah, I'll put it on the list here.